Yo, YouTube, what is good, bruv gang? What is good, and we are back with another video. When it comes to the Dragon Quest series, we all know it to be the grandfather of all JRPGs. Now, the Dragon Quest series has had various different spin-off games in its 37-year history, but one game that has stuck by and taken some notable hiatuses over the years has been the Dragon Quest Monsters series. Now, the Dragon Quest Monsters games are a series of spin-off games with the main premise of the series essentially being monster catching in a similar vein to the Pokemon series. So the first game in the Dragon Quest Monsters series was released way back in 1998, simply titled Dragon Warrior Monsters, and over the spin-off series' 25-year history from 1998 to 2023, the series has seen 14 games released within this time period. Taking some notable hiatuses over the years, as mentioned previously, the last mainline game in the Monsters series was Dragon Quest Monsters Joker 3, which was released only in Japan back in 2016, and the last game to release in the West was way back in 2011 in North America and Europe respectively, meaning the series had essentially disappeared from the West for a whopping 12 years. So with no real concrete news on whether the series would be making a comeback to the West, things were looking very bleak for the beloved Dragon Quest spin-off. It was finally announced after 12 long years that the series would be making a comeback to the Nintendo Switch under the name Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince, with the game following the now main protagonist Pissarro, who is the central villain to the mainline title in Dragon Quest IV. So huge shout out and thank you once again to Square Enix, who were kind enough to hook me up with a review code for this game, so stay tuned as I give you guys my spoiler free review and let you guys know whether you should buy or play Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince. So the story sees you take control of main protagonist and returning villain from Dragon Quest IV, Pissarro. Pissarro is the demon prince and son to the current master of monster kind, Randolpho. After a failed confrontation with his father, Pissarro is cursed by Randolpho to prevent him from harming monsters. As a result of being cursed by his father, Pissarro must now become a monster wrangler, which will see him recruit and fight alongside monsters throughout the three worlds comprised of Naderia, Terrestria and Zenithia. Pissarro now must seek out a way to lift the curse and yearns for revenge against his evil father Randolpho. So let's get straight into this review and start with the presentation. So the presentation within this game is absolutely stunning and something I really love throughout. The game has that lovable Dragon Quest charm and environments within this game are so well presented. So over the course of your adventure, the environments will undergo seasonal cycles from spring, summer, autumn and winter. The seasons not only change the weather but also change the landscape around you, which will open up various new areas that may have been locked before due to the current season. So for example, if the season is summer, there will be water that may be covering an item, meaning you can't go and get it. When the season changes to winter, the water will change to ice, meaning you can now walk on the ice and go and get the item that may have been in the water previously. The different season changes also affect monsters you encounter, which will be specific to a season. So the one thing I cannot get enough of within this game is the monster design. People may not be the biggest fans of Dragon Quest monster design, but for me personally, I'm a huge fan of each monster's unique design. No monster feels copy and paste to me, but where you could argue there are various different versions of slimes that could be considered copy and paste, I feel each monster is uniquely designed and some may come from a similar family line just like the slimes. The game does an amazing job at giving each monster its own personality, from monsters' wacky designs to insanely over the top and creative names. Each monster just exudes charisma and I always found myself smiling whenever I encountered a brand new monster. So let's move on to the characters and their roles. Within this game, you can only take control of the main protagonist Pissarro, with each side character having a supporting role along your journey. So the three main characters who accompany you along your journey are first Rose. Rose is an elven girl who meets Pissarro after being rescued by her captor. Rose is given her name by Pissarro and she swears to repay his kindness for rescuing her by assisting him in searching for a cure for his curse. Rose acts as a nice guide throughout your journey. So next up we have Fizzy. Fizzy is an old associate of Monty, a former monster wrangler master whom you meet at the start of the game. Fizzy essentially works as a guide to teaching you all you need to know about monster wrangling. And lastly we have Professor Toilin Trouble. If anyone is familiar with Dragon Quest V, Toilin is a returning character and portrayed as a younger version of himself. Toilin is a researcher of magic and has the common goal of travelling to Naderia in search of magical ingredients not found in the human world. So let's move on to one of my favourite aspects of Dragon Quest Monsters, and we have the gameplay. Now the gameplay within this game is honestly something that caught me off guard with how addictive and fun it can be. Now I will admit, people will be very lazy and quick to say the gameplay is either copying Pokemon or similar, mainly down to the game's monster collecting traits, but I really feel this game has another layer of depth to its gameplay. So let's start out with the main aspects of the gameplay, and that's the combat. So battles start out by you essentially bumping into an enemy monster that can be seen moving around on the overworld map. In battle, you can issue out commands which are separated into 7 categories. So the first of these 7 categories is Fight. Fight, which is pretty self-explanatory, where monsters will carry out your instructions and attack the enemy monsters. Orders will allow you to make changes to which monster you allow to target a specific enemy monster, as opposed to pressing fight and having them carry out your preset instructions. Scout will perform a show of force, essentially working as how a Pokeball does in Pokemon. If the show of force succeeds, the enemy monster will join your team. So the tactics screen provides 5 different options for controlling how individual monsters behave in battle. These tactics range from 5 different split categories: show no mercy, weaken the enemy, support your allies, focus on healing, and don't use magic. Items will allow you to throw things like food, for example, to make it easier when scouting a monster to have them join your team, or just simply heal a monster in your party. Next up we have change party. As you progress along the story and have scouted more monsters to join your team, you'll be able to change monsters in and out of your party to deal with certain enemies. And lastly we have flee. So during battle you can run from the fight, but sometimes the enemy will read your intentions and cut off your escape. So let's move on to the menus. So in the menus, the game will allow you to access 8 different menu options. I'll be covering the ones I've yet to talk about, skipping over the ones that were mentioned previously in the battle commands menu, which were change party, items, and tactics. So firstly we have accessories. You can equip your monsters with accessories that provide all kinds of beneficial effects. Set instructions will allow you to manually adjust the frequency of how much monsters use a spell or ability. Spells and abilities will allow you to set different spells and abilities to your monsters. So next we have talent points. The talent points your monsters earn can be assigned to their talents, unlocking skills and traits that will make them more formidable in battle. Handy Heal uses the most efficient combination of your monster's spells and abilities to restore your entire party's HP so that it's almost full. And lastly we have save. So the beauty of this game is that it allows you to save at any point, honestly aiding the perfect pick up and play experience. So moving on to the traversal within this game. Traversal and fast travel within Dragon Quest monsters is handled by Dragon Quest staple spell Zoom, a spell which is given to you very early on in your journey by Fizzy, making traversal that much easier. So moving on to a big feature of this game is the monster party size. Now while your party can occupy 4 slots at a time, monsters within Dragon Quest monsters come in all different shapes and sizes. Monsters are given sizes, and this does have an adverse effect on how you construct your party size. Small monsters take up 1 slot in your team composition, while large monsters require 2 slots. The benefit to large monsters is that they have higher attributes and are stronger in turn as opposed to the smaller monsters. So moving on to a feature that I really love throughout this game is the battle arena. So as the story progresses, the game will introduce you to a super fun gameplay loop called the Monster Mega Brawl, which takes place in the battle arena. So Monster Mega Brawls are divided into 8 categories, from category G being the lowest and category S being the highest. As you progress further into the game, a 9th category is added named category X, where the most powerful monsters in the game lie in wait. The rules of the Monster Mega Brawls are as follows. You will need to defeat 3 opponents to win, and health will be restored at the end of each battle. The battle arena makes for some incredibly fun battles and is a great way to level up monsters and just test yourself to see how powerful and effective your party is. So as you progress along the story, Fizzy will introduce to you the online gateway feature. This will allow you to face off in online battles or download DLC from the Nintendo eShop, but the main focus here is the online battle section. So online battles will allow you to battle against monster wranglers over the internet, and the quickfire contest feature will allow you to auto battle your way through 30 opponents, where you can even recruit enemy monsters to your team if you do well enough. So moving on to the final gameplay feature, and probably one of my favourites, is the synthesis. So one key component of the gameplay loop is synthesis. Comparable to how evolving works in Pokemon, synthesizing is essentially a fusion method that combines 2 monsters to make a new one. Although it's not unlocked right off the bat and is something you later unlock in your playthrough, there is a lot of fun to be had when synthesizing, and honestly just adds another layer of fun to the gameplay loop. So synthesizing is separated into 2 options. So first up we have synthesis. This will take you to a menu with all scouted monsters that are eligible for fusion. Only monsters level 10 or higher can be synthesized, where you can choose 2 monsters to see their possible offspring. And lastly we have reverse search. Reverse search allows you to specify certain conditions for synthesis, like the type of monster you wish to create or the parent monsters you want to use. So upon selecting 2 monsters to be synthesized, the game will ask you to select 3 talents that said offspring monster can inherit. Inherited talents will retain half the number of points from the parent monster, half the number of points from uninherited monsters will be passed on to the offspring and can be reassigned however you like. So for me personally, synthesis was a feature I found to be so in depth. And while I still haven't even scratched the surface of what monsters you are capable of making, it's honestly a feature I feel was so well done throughout this game. So to conclude this review, being as this was my first experience with Dragon Quest monsters, I can honestly say this game really caught me by surprise. From being more than just a Pokemon clone to outsiders looking in, the game has its own unique gameplay loop and a layer of depth to its gameplay that's even greater than Pokemon in my opinion. So as someone who has a deep love for Dragon Quest games, I can honestly say this has easily been one of the best Dragon Quest spin-off games I've experienced, and really makes me want to go back and play some of the previous entries just to see how great this series of games are. So Dragon Quest Monsters is a game I'm still actively playing through, and is a game I'm honestly just enjoying my time with. From my experience within this game, I can say Dragon Quest Monsters is easily the most slept on JRPG to release in 2023. Although it was released late in the year, I still feel it's a game worthy of people's time. So for me personally, Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince is a game I would score 9 out of 10. And if you're someone like me who enjoys monster collecting games or are fans of the Pokemon series of games, this is an experience worth your time. As mentioned previously, I really feel this is an underrated gem from Square Enix and 100% a JRPG worth checking out when you can. So that'll do it for this video guys. I really appreciate you guys for watching. I'd love to know you guys' thoughts on this review and whether this is a game you played or plan to play, so please let me know down below in the comments. Also, massive shout out and thank you once again to Square Enix for providing the review code for this game. So as always, please like, sub, share if you're new, hit that notification bell so you get notified of my videos first, and I hope I can be you guys' #1 source for all JRPG news. So from me to you, this has been your bruv, the big bruv, and I'm gonna catch you guys on the next video. I'm out. Peace!